This is KGW News at Sunrise.
This morning, we're following up on a terrible story from over the weekend. An off-duty Vancouver police officer who was fighting off an armed robbery suspect at his home was accidentally shot by a Clark County Sheriff's deputy. We're going to hear what led up to this tragic mistake.
Then Highway 224 is still closed a year after a wildfire burned through, and at least a dozen businesses in Estacada are feeling the impact. Coming up, their push to get the road back open before they have to close shop.
Good Monday morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Can't believe it, already the last day of January. Chris McGinnis is in for Rod today. What are we in for weather-wise?
I bet you it sounds even better when the microphone is up and running. Christopher!
He's looking confused.
Christopher! Tap it twice.
We'll get it figured out.
Your phone is on. I'll step out of the way real quick. There is a look at the radar over the last little while here, guys. We are seeing a little break in the rain and snow that has been targeting the region here over the last couple of hours, but that'll continue on and off for the next, 12 hours or so. Right now, we are 40 degrees at PDX, light southwest breeze at 8, and elsewhere across the region this morning, waking up to 37 in Beaverton, 37 Tigard. We go south into the Willamette Valley this morning, 40 last check in Salem. So obviously a little warmer out there this morning than we were almost every morning last week, right? All right, the plan for today, lots of cloud cover, occasional showers in our forecast, and daytime highs in the mid-40s. Guys, snow up in the Cascades, winter weather advisory there. We'll take a look at that and your Groundhog Day forecast and the 7 days, just a few minutes.
All right, it was worth waiting for. Thank you, sir. Developing this morning, police are investigating a shooting that killed a man in Northeast Portland. They discovered his body around 8:30 last night in the area of 52nd and Cooch. Somebody called 911 to report gunfire, and when officers arrived, they found the man dead with multiple bullet wounds. No word yet on a suspect, but Portland police say they've responded to almost 100 shootings so far this month. In the meantime, in Clark County, a sheriff's deputy shot and killed an off-duty policeman as that officer fought with an armed robbery suspect who was trying to break into his house.
KGW's Galen Etlin explains what led up to this tragic mistake.
Southwest Washington mourns Vancouver police officer Donald Sahota. The 52-year-old was shot and killed in his battleground home Sunday by a Clark County deputy by accident. The Lower Columbia Major Crimes Team is investigating. It started here at the Orchards Chevron on Northeast 4th Plain Boulevard. Investigators say a man robbed a clerk at gunpoint, then took off in a stolen car. Authorities chased him north, and eventually the man ditched the car and went door to door trying to hide in a remote wooded area of Battleground. LCMC says the man ended up outside Officer Sahota's home off of this road, and the two got into a fight. Sahota ended up with some stab wounds. The man then ran toward the house, and Sahota picked up his gun. That's when deputies arrived, and one fired several shots with a rifle, unknowingly hitting Officer Sahota and not the robbery suspect. Sahota died, and the unidentified suspect was taken into custody. Vancouver's mayor put out a statement saying, "It will likely be days before we know more. I hope the community will hold Officer Sahota's family and our law enforcement community in our thoughts and hearts." Sahota served Vancouver PD since April 2014, and before that worked for Gresham and Port of Portland Police. Gresham PD put out a statement saying Sahota worked there for nearly 14 years and was a, quote, kind and thoughtful person, someone we will always remember for his tenacious work ethic and commitment to bringing justice to victims and their families. Sahota leaves behind a wife and 2 children. Galen Etlin, KGW News.
Lots more to come on that story. Meanwhile, lawmakers in Washington are racing to fix a police reform law that backfired on some of the state's most vulnerable residents. So last year, Democrats passed reform legislation that included restrictions on officers' use of force. Law enforcement groups even back then said it would hinder their ability to detain people in a mental health crisis, and that turned out to be true. Officers were still needed for certain mental health crises, but they couldn't detain people even to determine if they posed a danger to themselves or others. So this new bill will make it clear an officer can use force to detain people for involuntary treatment or protective custody. Washington Congresswoman Jamie Herrera Butler is introducing a law to help smaller police departments. The Invest to Protect Act would provide federal money for training, body cameras, mental health resources, and recruitment and retention. It's designed to help police departments like the one in Kelso, which has 28 sworn officers, but only 23 of those positions are filled.
There are a lot of small forces across the nation that just don't have the resources to bring them, up to a 21st century level, whether it's technology and data or training or recruitment and retention. And this money is going to help them get there.
The Kelso Police Department is trying to modernize by implementing a body camera program, and the chief says it'll help improve relations. Money is needed to make that happen, though. Herrera Butler is now looking for co-sponsors of the bill, so it may be a while before this is taken up by the full House.
A local nonprofit is without their one and only food delivery truck after it was stolen from a Beaverton church earlier this month.
We serve anyone that needs to be served, the homeless, those that don't make enough money to live.
St. Vincent de Paul runs a food pantry out of St. Cecilia's Church in Beaverton. The organization has provided food to other local pantries for the past 27 years. That's all until last Sunday, the 23rd, when people broke into the church's office. A security camera caught them doing that, and after that break-in, the truck was gone.
So we are suspending night pickups for a few weeks until we figure out how best we can go forward.
So St. Vincent de Paul is now having to rent a van. You can imagine that's not cheap, costing the organization extra money. If you spot this yellow box truck with the St. Vincent de Paul logo on the side that we just showed you a moment ago, you're asked to contact the Beaverton Police Department.
Okay, we've all done it, pulled up to an intersection without a traffic light, only to find that we can't see around the parked cars right there at the curb. You have to kind of inch up and look around before you cross the street. It can get dicey. So here's the deal. PBOT says it's going to start prioritizing vision clearance at 350 intersections without a stop sign or a signal. That process is called daylighting. The city will remove parking spaces within 20 feet of an intersection.
Are there other places that could qualify for vision clearance and removal of parking to provide additional vision clearance and daylighting? Sure, absolutely.
If you'd like to learn more about the daylighting process and what's legal and illegal when it comes to parking, PBOT has a link on its website. Here's another heads up for drivers in Portland. The St. John's Bridge will close from 10 p.m. until 5 a.m. from now until Saturday morning. That shutdown is for maintenance and bridge inspections. Pedestrians and bicyclists will still be allowed to use the bridge, but do expect delays. Flaggers will be there to guide you across. And the last two TriMet buses, one is at 10:10, the other is at 10:18, they will also be allowed to cross.
All right, before we check in with Chris McGinnis, let's talk about polar plunging. This weekend, we saw the first of several local polar plunge events that are happening over the next several weeks, all for Special Olympics Oregon. So this one happened down on the Oregon coast near Warrenton. And yes, this is the first of many. There's a polar plunge event coming to Bend and also one to Salem this Saturday, February 5th. Chris McGinnis, they call it a polar plunge, although it was not technically freezing over the weekend when they held that event.
But you would still call it a polar plunge if you've actually done it, which I know you have.
Yeah, the water feels cold enough.
It's quite cold, and even if the air temperature's not that cold, when you get out, it's cold, right? It's not as cold this morning as we've been the last several mornings, all of last week, right? We were waking up to temperatures in the 20s and lower 30s. Not the case this morning. It's 40 last check at PDX, 37 right now in Beaverton. All right, a little chilly out towards Forest Grove at 33, but you get the idea. We're generally warmer west of the Cascades this morning than almost any morning last week. And even over the east side, I can tell you, Burns and Baker City, you were in the single digits yesterday at this time. The temperatures have moderated just a little bit. All right, radar right now showing a little smattering of snow up in the Cascades, a couple of mixed rain and snow showers in the highest terrain of the Oregon Coast Range, and of course showers offshore. And all of those will continue pivoting here through the northwest throughout the day today. So while I don't think any of this rain is terribly heavy, we will at times see some showers in the Willamette Valley throughout our Monday. All right, this is what the temperatures look like for today. By lunchtime, generally in the low 40s. And Futurecast has much of the I-5 corridor climbing into the mid to upper 40s this afternoon. After the cold start, you get up to about 31 out towards Baker City and the East Gorge and the Columbia Basin in the upper 30s and low 40s today as well. Here's a look at Futurecast again. Then we've got the green paintbrush out here. So a little dab of rain here and there, snow up in the Cascades, and a reminder that we do have a winter weather advisory in effect for the highest terrain of the Oregon and Washington Cascades. It is snowing up there right now at Timberline. Nice to get some fresh snow after what has been a dry couple of weeks, right? All right, showers today with a high of 45, sun and showers Tuesday. Groundhog Day Wednesday looks like a partly sunny day. And guys, the second half of the weekend, the early look to next weekend, actually looks dry and fairly mild. Back to you.
Sounds good, Chris. Thank you. Still ahead this morning, some businesses near Estacada really struggling just to stay open. It's because of a stretch of Highway 224 that's still closed because of the wildfires. Coming up here in just 4 minutes, we're going to hear from a business owner who's pushing to get the highway back open. Plus, if you're a parent, you'll probably get some checks from the IRS. You probably got some checks, I should say, from the IRS last year as part of the child tax credit. But should you claim that stuff on your tax returns? Our Verified team looks into it after the break.